yeah.
Yes, sir.
We live and we back with it. Just want to welcome everybody to I think, and I think you also think, a very important show. And this is going to be very informative. We're going to be talking about biases in finance and banking. And the reason why I find this extremely important because these barriers that we're facing deter our ability to create and secure a financial security and generational wealth. So, welcome to Pseudo Killas on Finance. And to introduce to you our the producer of this episode and the facilitator of this conversation, Pseudo Killy Army official Brass is in the building. Brass.
Good evening. Good evening. Um, very fired up, very excited. Um, one of the things that we do in the Pseudo Killers is we constantly have conversations that kind of challenge the norm, kind of present things in a way where it's not always the same conversation. We're very multifaceted in our conversations. Um, very disturbed about not only the things that happened in the past, but very disturbed, even more disturbed about the things that are happening in the present, things that are happening right now. You know, it is great to understand your history. It's great to know your history, but it's also good to, for me at least, because of my background, to kind of stay current and deal with everyday topics, but in a pseudo killer way, a more organized way, not just random discussion. Random discussion is good, but sometimes things get missed in random discussion. Ideas get missed, and you get lost. I'm going to tell you now. This is going to be a. It's going to be a. How can I say, a cooperative effort. I'm going to present certain talking points. I'm going to present certain things that you may have known or not known, and we're going to go further in regards to that. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a bit of a ride. I don't know exactly how long we're going to go, but I know that some of these conversations are going to be kind of touchy, and I welcome. Matter of fact, I extend a warm welcome to anyone in the chat that wants to come up, have a conversation, as long as you keep it respectful. But I would love to hear more people's opinions, because one thing I've learned in finance is that finance is actually different. It means different things to different people. It means, to a lower income family, finances, Christmas, for example, to a lower income family, Christmas means a whole lot different to a higher income family. These different things that might mean one thing to me. If you don't have stocks or investments, we're having different conversations. If you do have stocks or investments, we have different conversations. If you're a business owner, it's a different conversation. If you're a single mother, it's a different conversation. So I'd like to hear it from other people's points of views than mine. I'm just going to put the plate out there, and it's for all of us to dine. So, Juju, you could take it, do everything that you do. She's my favorite moderator, and I wouldn't want to take this ride on this particular show with anybody else than Juju.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Brass. I'm just excited to hear what you have as far as a presentation, and I don't even want to hold you up. I just really want to get right into it. And as far as the audience, welcome to everybody. Thank y'all for taking the time out to actually be engaged in those conversations that are beneficial to us, for sure. These conversations that provide tools that we can take with us and apply it to our own lives to better ourselves. And I did put the link in the chat. I will continuously put the link in the chat. So again, if anyone has anything to add, please do not hesitate. We want active engagement in everything, including these conversations. So please do become a part of the show. And with that, Brass, it's all yours until I feel like I got something important to say. But
No, and I want you to cut. This
learn.
is a cut. This is a cutoff show. This is a cutoff show, because the one thing I don't want to do is, especially when it comes to finance, especially in the Black community, what I don't want to do is I do not want to get up here and start telling everybody what they should do, tell everybody what the ills are from just my perspective. I want to speak to it from a position of what everybody's kind of, what everybody's going through, what everybody's kind of thinking of. I'm trying to find a way to make this full screen, but I'm probably not going to be able to do it. So I'm just going to just do it the best way that I can. So I'm going to share my screen. I put it in a small PowerPoint presentation.
Yay, PowerPoint.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how to actually share. Okay, so so I could just share the entire screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's not sharing. It's not saying sharing. It's not saying share at the bottom, though.
Oh, you don't have.
Okay, now it is. No, now it is. Now it is. I'm on my laptop. I learned that from you. Trust me. I learned that from you.
And I see it. There we go.
Okay, so do you see the presentation?
Pseudo Killas present banking on bias, unveiling, and inequality in finance.
Excellent. So, Maya Angelou, and there'll be some quotes in this particular presentation. And Juju, I can't see who joins, so just let me know when somebody joins. I'll take a break and let them introduce them and let them say something on it.
Absolutely.
But the great Maya Angelou on finance once said, "Prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the future, and renders the present inaccessible. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." A lot of times in our Discord, we have conversations ranging from the Big Bang all the way to, I think this morning we were talking about how AI robots are fixing themselves. And that, that's one of the more terrifying things. So in our Discord, we do have the great stop sign, Bobby Banger, brother whatever you want to call him. But he always reminds us that we must never give up. And that a lot of people in our particular Discord, we can never forget African American history, what we've done since we've been here. And it's a quiet reminder for me all the time. Whenever people discuss history, they're always talking about, Egypt and different things like that. But we can never forget that our history here is important. And one of the things that I take from our history here on this particular continent is resilience. We've had the ability to be essentially had everything destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed, rebuilt over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many times we've called ourselves, whether it's the Watts riots, the George Floyd riots, the Rodney King riots, the Martin Luther King being assassinated, all these different examples where as a race, we could have just gone completely backwards. And we didn't. We had the resilience to fall down and get back up. And I think in this particular quote, while prejudice is a burden that confuses the past and threatens the future and renders the present inaccessible, we must not be defeated even though we encounter many defeats. And I read that last sentence in reverse. We can never actually give up. A lot of times when you see social media, because it's not actually the news, things happen at 4 o'clock, we hear about them at 4:05. And it's the worst thing ever. Somebody gets shot at 3 o'clock, we hear about it at 3:03, and over and over and over and over again. We wake up to the worst news, we go to bed to the worst news, all these different things, but we must not be defeated. You have to remember that we are resilient people. That's why I'm attacking this conversation from more than just Navy Federal. And I'll get into that in a second. So why are we doing this particular show? There is a harsh reality of systems. As you can see,
can you blow that up a little bit more?
Can I blow it up a little bit? Yeah, I can you?
Don't mess up nothing now. Just go back.
I don't even think I can. Messing with you.
Oh shoot! I don't know. Just push that back arrow or something.
There's no back arrow. You did this to me. Okay.
There we go.
So
Never
I
mind.
don't think I can.
No, that's
but,
all right.
The here where my arrow is right now is white people have a difficult time fully understanding racism. In the conversation, one of the things we're going to discuss this evening is reparations. We're going to discuss banking bias. We're going to discuss housing bias, but reparations, we're going to finish the conversation with that. And a lot of the arguments, I don't know about you, Juju, but a lot of the arguments that I hear whenever we discuss any time with reparations and there's white people in the room, one of the things they say always is that it wasn't me that did it.
Facts.
It wasn't, I didn't do it.
Let me add that though.
Go ahead.
Let me
Jump
add.
in there.
They'll say it wasn't me that did it. You know what I respond sometimes?
What's
but
that?
What are you doing to stop it? You know,
Perfect.
like, what are you doing to change it now? Perfect. And then you get, silence. That's always my response.
So then you have on the top bubble, systems and institutions favor white people, which is facts. We know this. This isn't like, I'm not dropping groundbreaking evidence today. These are things I'm going to reinforce, but then also offer solutions with the challenges. This makes it difficult for non-white people to meet basic human needs. Right now, if you're any kind of if you're educated at all in finance, right now, inflation is tearing the United States apart. Any person who shops, who does the shopping for their family, for the groceries, any person who's paying the taxes on the house, in so many areas right now, the cost of living is insane versus how much actually how much actually being paid. We had a conversation earlier about how robots are taking over most of the jobs in the country. In some of the Walmarts in the country, there's only 2 maybe registered people, and then you have nothing but self-checkout. If you go in like the Taco Bell out here, there's no one when you walk in the restaurant. There's 4 kiosks. You put your order, they put it out. That's it. So the people that probably need the finance the most are the jobs that are being replaced at the highest rate. So why are we doing this is because this is what it is. So we're just trying to make you aware. Now, from my big sister Juju, she told me that when you do these presentations, the one thing that you definitely have to tell everyone is I am not your financial advisor, and this is not financial advice.
Disclaimer.
Do your own due diligence. This is your due diligence. This is not me. This is you. So I want to be very clear. If you go out tomorrow and you do something, don't put me or the Pseudo Killas in your court document, however it plays out. Don't say some guy named Brass told you to do this. We're not doing that. Now, why are we doing this presentation? Education plays a vital role in addressing institutionalized racism by promoting awareness, fostering empathy, and equipping individuals with the critical thinking skills needed to challenge and dismantle discriminatory systems. So, one of the reasons why I felt like we needed to do this show, obviously, is the Navy Federal scandal. The Navy Federal scandal let me know a couple of things. It let me know that a lot of people don't know how banking actually works. We do a lot of these things based off of discussions in the Discord. We had a discussion the other day where I don't think people are aware. If you put let's say you have, $832,000 in the bank. 98% of the time, depending on the bank you go to and the relationship you have with that particular financial institution, you will not be able to go in there and take out more than about $50,000 to $60,000 at any given time without a phone call first. I know from experience. I know some of the people in this chat have tried to make major withdrawals from their banking institutions, so they realize that. But you know what? 70% of the world does not know that. 70% of the world thinks that every bank carries all of the money that is that is held by that bank in that particular bank at that particular time. They forecast just like many other businesses. When you go to like a Popeye's chicken or something, they don't just fry all the chicken and pray that you get there. They look at 5 o'clock from last year, 5 o'clock from last week, 5 o'clock from last month, and that's how much they have for that time. So a bank works similar to the same way. They have about as much money that is always withdrawn on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock. They have about that much money available. And they will tell you, no, we can't service you. You could take out X amount of dollars and then maybe go to another one, but that's that. So we're trying to give you some education before you get involved in these financial decisions. I remember during COVID, when everybody was getting the PPP loans, I am a business owner, and I told everyone, unless you need that money vitally, don't take it. That money was basically thrown out there as a Band-Aid. Now, it did help a lot of people, but when you look at the incarceration rates behind people that took it for good reasons, took it for bad reasons, and majority of the people, I believe, that probably got incarcerated, and this is my personal opinion, that they probably just didn't know exactly what was going on. They didn't know the rules. They didn't know exactly how it played. And I don't know. Did you have any experience with anybody with the PPP loans?
I know I have experience, but the people that I know who utilize it actually did it for good and knew what they were doing and didn't suffer any adverse consequences, so to speak. But one thing I want to add, I love this slide, and I love that you included fostering empathy. And I hope people can really catch on to that and why I pointed that out. But that's important. But carry on.
So the topics I'm going to discuss today are bias in banking, bias in housing, and reparations. Now I know this is not going to be a long show, depending on who joins, depending on the conversations. I just wanted to have the conversation because this is what people are talking about. A lot of the topics that we discuss are a lot, sometimes we end up just discussing the topics that are on YouTube, but the topics that are just in the quote unquote whatever community. But in this particular topic, what I wanted to discuss was things that affect us every day. People are trying to get homes. People are trying to, especially now, people are trying to get car loans. People are trying to get loans in general. So you need to have somewhat of an idea when you go out there into this, what should be a fair playing field, but what becomes the actual minefield of discrimination. You need to know what you're actually looking at versus the pillars of these Greek-shaped buildings that they call banks out here in the community. One of these quotes from somebody I really appreciate, James Baldwin, is, "To be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be enraged almost all of the time." I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. To be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time.
My favorite quote by him.
He has so many. I love to see him actually speak, but that particular quote is timeless.
It's powerful.
It's timeless.
I got 10 favorite quotes by him, but carry.
Okay, one day I need to see that. I pulled some of this from the book, "The Color of Money: Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap." So if you want to pull that, I pulled some of these from that book. Frederick Douglass remarked that the history of civilization shows that no people can well rise to a high degree of mental or even moral excellence without wealth. A people uniformly poor and compelled to struggle for barely a physical existence will be dependent and despised by their neighbors and will finally despise themselves. If you've ever seen, lower income, well, we're talking about Black people right now. So lower income Black families have this quote. There's two quotes: robbing Peter to pay Paul. These sayings, rather. And I'm just trying to make ends meet, make $1 out of 15 cents. You hear all of these things?
Yes.
These things destroy you. These things destroy you, man. When you're a kid,
Yeah.
You don't realize till you get older how hard your parents actually worked for you to have any semblance of a childhood, to have any, especially around this time, Christmas time. They don't have any money, but somehow my parents, my mom, my father, and we had a lot of siblings. We all had gifts. My fondest memories of childhood are Christmas, but you don't realize the private time crying on the side of the bed because there's not quite enough money to feed your family. And you're going to work every day. I'm not talking about the unemployed people, the people that are just at home, the people that are just sitting there. I'm talking about the people that go to work 9 to 5, sometimes 5 to 6 to 10, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, and still can't afford to put food on the table, still can't afford to feed their kids. And kids don't understand. They just want the latest thing. They want to eat out all the time. Remember, what's the other quote, Juju? We got McDonald's at home. You know what I mean? Like,
I can be, yeah.
all
It
of
ain't
that kind
the
of crazy
same, mama.
Yeah, it's like, man, it's got green peppers and big onions on the burger. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I want the kids meal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, with
you
the
don't
toy.
understand that. Right. So you look into this quote and you say, a people uniformly poor and compelled to struggle for barely a physical existence will be dependent and despised by their neighbors and will finally despise themselves. You end up having a disdain for yourself. What am I doing? They say things like, what did I do to deserve this? What am I doing wrong? I go, for the people that, go to church, these are the things that my mother and father would say. I go to church every Sunday. I tithe my 10%. I go to work every day. I'm a God-fearing human being, but yet this is my lot in life. You know what I mean? And you don't get an appreciation for it until you get older, whether you believe in God or not, whether you go to church or not. But once you start, my father used to always say this: you are not an adult until you take care of 3 things: your food, your clothing, and your shelter. When you take care of 3 of those, all 3, you can call yourself an adult. But until then, and I kept this with, I actually took care of food, clothing. I took care of in college. Right after college, I took care of shelter. And that's when I actually told them I'm an adult now. That's how much that meant to me. But I want
That's
y'all to
actually
think about.
beautiful
Mm-hmm.
to say that you're an adult now, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to break your bill, but I want to add a point in.
No, go ahead. I want you to cut me off.
I want to add a point in real quick about the religion part and the tie.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I find to be the negative with that, and I'm talking about the religion ideology, particularly in the Black church, right? Because of the circumstances of a lot of our communities. And let's say back then, I don't I don't want to put us all in a box because we do have some, very how shall I say, illustrious Black communities, okay?
Okay.
Nowadays, you know what I'm saying? We could brag about, and even some then we could talk about those communities and Martha Vineyard and whatnot, okay?
Nice.
But this idea that you just have to accept your position, you feel me, and that you'll receive your prize, or everything that you really deserve in life when you die. That's the
Right.
only problem I have with that, because it's about informing yourselves, being knowledgeable, and knowing that there are certain things that we can do in our lives to navigate ourselves out of the conditions that we were born in, especially if you were born in, certain conditions that like I came up in, and maybe other people that definitely didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth and definitely had the odds stacked against them, so to speak. So I just wanted to speak to that note. Nah, we can find some, financial freedom. We can gain generational wealth while we're alive. We can be happy while we're alive. Like, we can do that. So yeah, I never did approve of that from the church. Nah, I don't want to wait
Yeah.
till I'm dead. You
Yeah.
wild.
And I think that is such a way to keep a people down, to tell them that, no, I want you to suffer. Suffer
Exactly.
now. Suffer now. This is not even suffering. This is what you're going through right now is okay. Because when you die, you're going to have everything that you want in that you wanted in life. That is the easiest way to keep any demographic, any race in their place, which is sad. But so moving forward, like I said, I'm not going to keep y'all very long. This all started because of Navy Federal. Navy Federal, technically the largest credit union, especially for minorities in the United States. Last week, CNN, I give them their proper accreditation, CNN dropped an article. Now, they've been attacking Navy Federal for a very long time. I don't necessarily know why. I'm not. That's probably another show. But they've done a lot of shows over the past 10 years based on Navy Federal. So they had a show about Navy Federal credit unions' mortgage disparities. Their approval rates over 75% for white applicants versus less than 50% for black applicants. Income comparison, higher approval for white borrowers earning less than $62,000 than black borrowers earning over $140,000. I'm going to say that again. They would approve white borrowers earning less than $62,000 and black borrowers earning $140,000. Somehow they made them the same. Denial rates, black applicants more than twice as likely to be denied compared to white applicants with similar financial profiles. Now, they did come out in a response. Navy Federal defends its practices, emphasizing commitment to fair lending and stating an analysis did not consider all loan approval criteria. So this is not a Navy Federal bash scandal. But what I also saw was that they're not the only ones. I remember a while back, Bank of America with the overdraft fees, that there were people that were receiving overdraft fees. They were timing the overdraft fees to basically make people overdraft. They said at the end of the year, I won't say it, but that was what the case was in regards to overdraft fees in regards to minorities. Wells Fargo, they did a community lending test and it failed. It was a poor performance due to violations harming customers, especially in lower income communities. They had a lawsuit for overcharging. They had accusations of overcharging small business retailers for credit card services. Discrimination lawsuit. Sacramento sued Wells Fargo for discrimination against Black and Latino borrowers. So I want y'all to understand something about fair. Fair is not about my father used to always say, fair is a place where they judged pigs. So this is not, I'm not a person that believes about.
Wait a minute.
Listen, I had a father. My father was an entrepreneur from the beginning. I never saw that man cry until his last days, and he just kept it real.
That's real, though.
Fair is a place where they judge pigs.
Listen, the Volusia County Fair definitely judged some pigs.
Yeah. This is not about being fair. I'm not saying that it has to be fair, but when you're comparing a black income of $140,000 a year to a white income of $62,000 a year and somehow making them the same, that's ridiculous. So we're going to talk about bias banking. Bias banking. And after I get finished with bias banking, I want to go a little bit into the look at some of the comments on the chat or see if anybody joined the panel. But bias banking.
Let me stop you right there.
Okay, go ahead.
We do have the original Pseudo Killa himself, God killing the building. What up, Bobby Banger?
What's going on, sister? How you doing, Juju? And what's going on, Brass? How you doing, bro?
What's going on, God Killer?
Yeah, I just wanted to just said I appreciate you coming through, volunteering your time, man. You don't got to do it, but you're doing it for the people, man. I think it's important for us to volunteer and to help our community to actually understand. I actually seen a whole, it was a great presentation on how they, we couldn't get loans back in the day, you know what I mean? And how we just, just the banking practices, period, how you couldn't buy certain homes in certain neighborhoods and how, just the wealth, in general. So I think adding this type of show to the, to the community, I think is very valuable. see, we got a nice little crowd in there, man. But I just basically wanted to come on and personally say, thank you for doing this for us. And yeah, that's one of my favorite sayings. I say it all the time, yo. Fair is where they judge goddamn pigs. So that should have tripped. Because it ain't, you can't worry about whether something fair or not, yo. Whether it's fair or not, yo, you gotta learn how to handle your business right. And I wonder, you talked about Navy Federal, so I'm kind of wondering what their whole pushback was, like what matrix was they using? Was it the credit? Because sometimes you can have money, but the way you pay your bills ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Ain't on time. There's a lot of things we need to step up and learn. My mother always taught me that. She say, nigga, no matter what. First of all, she never let me use her credit though. She's like, nope. She said, get your own shit, right? You ain't gonna mess signs. But she taught me, she said, yo, make sure your credit is right, pay your bills on time, right? And so, my mother, she raised me to do that. So I understand that credit scores are valuable. So yeah, I'm glad you got this show, but I want to take a look at the whole Navy Federal. Just what was their whole, why was they doing that, right? I know from the beginning of us being in this motherfucker, it was definitely racism, the way they, did us. And, so yeah, we not in them days, but we certainly are programmed that way. So we need to step up as African Americans, man, and pay attention to good content, man. So yeah, thanks for bringing a variety to our show.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So with Navy Federal, one of the things that CNN has attacked, and especially attacked over the years, is they have a thing called, and it's ruined sports, it's ruined basketball, it's ruined football, and it's actually messing up the financial industry. It's analytics. If it doesn't fit the bank's analytics, they're not interested in your story. They're not interested in that. They're interested specifically in if it fits their particular analytics. But the issue with credit unions is credit unions operate a little differently than banks do. Credit unions are actually built literally what their name is, credit unions. They anybody will tell you as you're coming up. I don't know what my elders in my family always told me: have a bank account, but also have like a big bank account. Chase, my bank of choice is Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the big top 10 banks or whatever. But always find a credit union.
Facts.
Because if you're trying to get a home, credit unions are supposed to be
the best.
A lot easier, right? A lot easier to get a car, to get student loans.
But also,
go ahead.
I'll add this though. So in my family in particular, like we have a number of educators, teachers, and whatnot, and also a number of people who served in the military. So credit unions was always, the talk. You can have a bank account, but you definitely gotta, be a part of a credit union for a plethora of things. Definitely. Just that. So I think it depends also on like kind of what your family arrangement is, like what professions are dominant in the family and whatnot. But
yeah, that too.
Military and teachers, they're known to be part of credit unions, right? And whatnot.
That was the first time I heard credit union. My family is educators. They all went to the military for the to be able to go to school because my grandparents weren't able to afford it. But they went to the military, GI Bill and such, just to be able to then get that go to college. But they all had credit unions. I remember my mom is the first time I want to say I remember anybody ever talking about a credit union. Part of the reason why Navy Federal is catching such slack is it's the quote unquote black federal credit union though. It's and I hate to do it, but a lot of the quote unquote gurus online, and I'm sure people in the chat, they follow these people. I'm not going to name them because I'm not interested in no lawsuits. A lot of the people, they'll tell you go to Navy Federal. They approve high, and it's actually factual. That's why the story kind of shocked me, because I've gotten car loans before from them. I didn't get my mortgage from them, but I've gotten car loans from them before. They're very equitable. They will approve you for different things, high credit limit, credit cards, and such. So that's why I'm not going to bash Navy Federal. That's why I didn't want to make the show about Navy Federal, because that's just the topic that everybody is talking about, but there's some systemic issues that are actually causing the problem. Bias banking, loan bias, higher rejection rates and interest rates for Black applicants, redlining, similar to what Killa was talking about, and historical avoidance of lending in Black neighborhoods. Banking deserts, lack of banking services in predominantly Black areas, in predominantly Black areas, credit scoring issues, systemic factors leading to lower credit scores for Black individuals, customer service. You actually receive reports of poor service and greater scrutiny for Black customers. Small business lending. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm sure there's some entrepreneurs in the chat. Challenges for Black-owned businesses in securing loans, investment opportunities, less favorable advice and fewer opportunities for Black investors. Marketing exclusion. Targeted marketing often excludes predominantly Black areas, and then also workplace discrimination, bias in hiring and promotions within the banking industry. So one of the things I always say about especially Black people in business, and if you own a business, I don't know, Unc, you're a business owner, maybe you could speak a little bit to it. You know, when you're trying to run a business, people, and I'm not just going to say Black people in general, but just people with the when I go to the high up pieces, when I'm talking about banks, or high up when it's regards to properties, or high up when it's in regards to investments, I don't see a lot of Black people. I don't. Maybe I know you are more south, maybe you do, but I don't see it. When I go into my local Chase, and I'm not going to the teller, I'm going to the back room with a sitting in front of a desk, talk to somebody, or somebody out on the floor. There's not a lot of Black representation from what I've seen. When I've talked about properties or even contractors, yes, the people that are working might be Black or Mexican, and I'm not trying to be racist. I'm just telling you from my point of view. Join the chat if you have a different point of view. But the contractors I meet, the lenders, the people that are approving the funds for me to fix my properties or deal in situations like that, the majority of them are not Black people, but a lot of the people that they send to work are Black and brown people. So I don't know if Unc wants to speak to that, but we're just covering basic biases in banking just so you can understand what that is. Go ahead.
I want to get in there about predatory banking practices. So whatever circumstances, seems like sometimes Black communities in particular, or I'll speak anecdotal, you know, may not have access to a bank or a real established financial institution. And lots of times in certain neighborhoods, you don't have a bank, but you got the Amscot, or you got the Cornerstone, the corner that are cash or check, or you got you know, those other like lending stores. And I think they're also a problem because they do have predatory lending practices, right? You know, the cash or check is way more than what it would cost if you was actually at a bank. So a lot of times it has to do with financial literacy, or even understanding how to, you know, invest your money, or actually, you know, have a banking account. Maybe people don't know, or maybe they were in circumstances where, you know, finances got the best of them, and maybe they were late on paying their bills. Not any ill intent, but maybe it just happened, right? And so they're not always approved for those regular bank accounts. But when I was younger, I learned the hard way on those predatory lending practices. So I will always advocate for people like, yo, just don't be ignorant, don't be scared. Just go get you a regular bank account and pay some normal fees, you know, and cash your check there. Stop cashing it at the Arab store with Poppy down the street. That's like, and you know, inflating the cost to cash your check, right? You know, cost is $5 every time you do it. Add that up. Like, I think every penny counts, and I think that's also what we fail to forget, that every penny counts. You know, don't be wasteful.
I want to take a second to address some of the people in the chat and some of the things that are being said. I can't see it because I'm only looking at the PowerPoint, so I'm looking at another screen. A peace to you, Black Mac Rob. I don't know. I always call you Black Rob. Mac Rob, Omar Reed, uh, American Dream. I like that good guy's comment. Uh, the governor Hacho, she's actually signed something today, which is kind of strange once we get to the reparations piece. That New York is actually looking at giving out reparations. So she signed something that's going to look into that based on the harmful effects of slavery. Governor Kathy Hochul. Sosa in the building. You should be up here with me. It's
I was going to say the same
issue.
thing, but
Yeah.
I ain't want to be messy.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a state-to-state issue. I agree. That good guy. Joel wants his reparations. Jesus to give you a cup. These are some strange comments. I'm gonna get out the peanut gallery as soon as I can.
Get out the peanut gallery.
But just shouts to y'all. I don't want to miss your comments.
They can hit the link if they really got something to say. You feel me?
For sure.
For sure.
So we're gonna go into quotes before I get into housing bias. By the 1950s, 85% of the homes sold to blacks in Chicago were sold on contract with exploitative terms. Now, that might not mean a lot to you in 2023, but I want you to understand something relative. 85% of the homes sold to blacks. Now, we're just talking about Chicago, so that's the Midwest. So we're not even talking about the South. We're just talking about the Midwest in the 50s. 85% of the homes that were sold to blacks in Chicago were sold on contract with exploitative terms. We're literally set up to fail. Now, the FHA loans, which were supposed to assist low-income minority home buyers, and they still claim to do it, but I want you to see something about between 1934 and 1968, 98% of the FHA loans went to white Americans. In some cases, whole cities were ineligible for FHA funds. So they had pretty much made the decision that on one hand, we're going to help, but we're just not going to help the people that it's for. So when I say the reason why I went back to those days is because these are your grandparents, these are your parents, these are the people that helped you get your start in life. We do the brain show, and we pay attention to early childhood, how the effects on the brain, early childhood, last way longer in life than when things that happen to you as an adult. You carry a lot of that baggage from when you were a child. I would imagine, this is my opinion, I'm kind of asked what maybe you think, Juju. Do you think that maybe a two-parent household in a home has a higher chance? That's a good question. Does a child in a two-parent home, with mother and father growing up in a house with a yard and such, garage, all of that kind of things, have a better chance than a single family apartment? A child coming from a single family apartment. I'd like to hash that out.
At what though?
A better chance at, let's say, success.
Overall?
Just an overall success, whatever a person would call a success in life. This is pure opinion talking. We're just talking. I don't have the facts to support. If you had to say it.
Well, on a lot of different subjects, so to speak, not just science, but even when you're dealing with like social work or whatnot, definitely the two-parent home in the house. There's a lot of variables and factors at play to why I'm saying that, though.
Mm-hmm.
But in the land of, statistically, yes, they have the better chance, and I'll leave it at that because that's not absolute. You get what I'm saying? We know.
I agree. That's why I say this is purely opinion. Whenever it's opinion, I'm gonna say it. If we say a stat, I'll say it. But some of the examples of housing bias are redlining. Mortgages refuse to provide mortgages in predominantly black neighborhoods. Now I'm gonna piece out redlining a little bit more. Redlining, the reason why, and I picture this, just want you to picture a map. Imagine if financial institutions can literally determine that this particular area is going to be always white. This particular area is going to be always Indian, always Latino, but that this specific area is going to be always black no matter what you do. So while you're fighting, trying to make your lot in life, work, be a good person, no matter what you do, this is where you're going to live. This is they're going to determine where you raise your children, whether your children get grass or cement. It's frustrating. Loan discrimination. Black home buyers often face higher mortgage rates and stricter lending criteria. Appraisal bias. Now, this has really been in the news. Properties in black neighborhoods are owned by black individuals are frequently undervalued. Now, you can look this up yourself. Like I said, I don't want this to be a long presentation. I wanted to have a present and then have a conversation. But there are stories, literally stories, of black people. I'll pull it up when we were in the conversation piece, of black people getting their house appraised at one value, going in, taking out all the pictures, anything that has anything to do with them being black, and literally getting their home appraised at a different value, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars different. So while I agree with Errol Holmes, he says you have to have loans and credit cards on your file. You have to play the game. I completely agree. I am not giving you this information and this education and just these little bit of tips to sit on the sidelines. You have to get in the game. You have to educate yourself. You have to make as much money as you can. But the key is to keep as much money as you can. I always tell people is, you look at all these people that you would quote unquote call rich. They have life insurance so that their family never has issues in regards to burying them. And then also they keep a lot of the wealth in the family. So it's not always about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. But you have to get in the game. You have to have credit. You can't get apartments, I found out. Probably about 5 years ago when I first got into, I always had properties in my family. My father believed in that, but we never had like tenants and things like that. So right before COVID, maybe a year or two before COVID, we started having tenants, and I didn't know, I never had an apartment. So I did not know you needed credit to get an apartment in the state of New Jersey. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I know they checked like they talk with, well, I don't know. I thought they called past landlords.
Nah, they check your credit.
Like I didn't know, but why? I don't even understand, because you're not getting, I don't know. But I said, I'm a little naive to that too.
They check your credit, and they also want to check like your past payment history, things of that nature. Okay, because if your credit ain't hitting where they need it to be, they're gonna ask for you to have a cosigner, just like a car. That's been a common practice in Florida since I can remember. So
yeah, see, with me, my father, I've always been, and I want to say one other point to go back to the parent piece, thinking about my own parents. I don't want you to think just because you have two parents, you'll be financially illiterate. I mean, financially literate. Your parents' financial literacy has a lot to do with your financial literacy also. What you see, what they talk about, the different discussions that they're having, the different things that they share with you. Your parents being financially literate, and for some of you that have children, you being financially literate will determine a lot about how financially literate your child is also. So that's a very important piece of the game also. But rental discrimination. Black renters face higher rejection rates and are often shown fewer options. Steering. Real estate agents sometimes guide black buyers away from predominantly white neighborhoods. Gentrification. Oh, man. That is like a buzzword right now. I remember when I was DJing in the city, we used to have different parties and things and go through Brooklyn, and there were certain areas you couldn't go through and certain areas you couldn't do this. And then when I went to school, came back and did a lot of things, man, when they put the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, you wouldn't even recognize Brooklyn now. You can add, we have a Pseudo Killa Army, Mongo Slade, he's from Brooklyn. Let him tell you, Brooklyn is completely different now. I mean, you're talking about high-level coffee shops, artesian bread places. I mean, just when it was just corner store, liquor store, church, corner store, liquor store, Chinese food, church. Now you got high level. I mean, you people walking dogs and things like that in Brooklyn. It's completely different now. So development in historically black neighborhoods can displace long-term residents. Segregation, persistent housing segregation limits access to quality schools and services for black families. Zoning laws, restrictive zoning can disproportionately impact black communities, limiting housing availability, maintenance, and services. You often experience delayed maintenance and poor services and rental properties. So that's housing bias. So let's get into reparations. Now, I'm gonna unshare my screen. Now, would you consider yourself I'm not gonna unshare my screen. Would you consider yourself, and hopefully God Killa's back, maybe we can have a short discussion before I get into it. You would consider yourself, if I'm not mistaken, a Pan-African, correct, Juju?
Roger that. Absolutely.
Okay. Where do you stand on reparations?
Okay, first of all, how do we define reparations?
Go ahead. Hey, this is your I'm giving it over to you. Tell me where you stand.
Yeah, first of all, it's how we define reparations. Reparations is just not in the form of money or cash. There are a lot of areas where we need, repair, so to speak. So I think across the board is where I'm looking for reparations. I say for every, African American descendant of slaves, like if we got student loans, just erase that, right? Just erase that. You feel me?
Okay.
And on top of that, I think we should actually get our education for free. College education, that is. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
For me, that would be a part of reparations right there. Cause Lord, them books, boy, bump the tuition. Them books was a doozy in college. But I mean, again, I'm being funny, but again, it's just not about financial. Of course, you can cut me a check on top of that, but I won't land. You know what I'm saying? I need you to pay for some education. Like there's many ways in which we definitely do need repair, because I'm talking about things that have been affecting us since slavery, since Reconstruction, since Jim Crow or whatnot. And that's across the board. But yeah, give me my money, cut me my check, and give me my benefits. You feel me?
I think that's one of the. I wanted to do a show on reparations, but it's such a touchy topic. It's such a hot topic. It's something I leave that out into the ether. Let people decide on themselves. Actually, the majority of this presentation was going to be about reparations, but all things being equal. But I learned some things in just looking at reparations. And God Killa cut me off at any point. That there have been cases, and I knew this, but I didn't know these specific cases. I knew the Japanese Americans, they received reparations. I think they were forced into internment camps during World War II. They received $38 million in reparations of $20,000 each to the survivors. By 1998, 80,000 survivors had collected their share for a total payout of $1.6 billion at the time. And then now that would be worth about $3.2 billion today. North Carolina, there's an example of reparations. 65,000 people in America were victims of forced sterilization, and only North Carolina has set up reparations. In 2013, they passed a $10 million reparations program that gave 177 living victims $50,000 each. We're all should be familiar with the Tuskegee experiment. Victims of the Tuskegee experiment received 10 million.
I gotta correct you. It's called the Tuskegee study.
Okay, the Tuskegee study.
And this experiment has such a negative connotation, so to speak, and then people misconstrued what actually took place. But carry on.
Okay, no, that's cool. And they received $10 million out of court settlement in 1974, which included both monetary reparations In 2014 dollars, that would be 178,000. It's funny they say experiment at the top, but check this, Juju. It says in 2014 dollars, 178,000 for men in the study who had syphilis, $72,000 for heirs, 77,000 for those in the control group, and $24,000 for heirs of those in the control group. So they do say study in there, but they start with experiment, which is
because I think that's a little bit of, it's a buzzword. I don't know, maybe a little bit of propaganda, and that's how people know it. You feel me? The vast majority of people who've ever heard of it, because even when I first heard of it, it was the experiment. But when you know better, you do better. And it was actually a study, and the implications that are being spewed about it isn't what exactly happened. And I'll just leave it at that. That's for another show, but carry on.
Okay. And the reason, for those of y'all wondering why I'm saying this, the banking biases are obvious. You can go back through and see some of the areas and do some of the information yourself. I'm not trying to keep you here for 3 or 4 hours to discuss things that we kind of already know. I wanted to highlight some terms. But as far as bias, reparations, I believe, is one of the biggest biases because people have actually received it. It's not like we're asking for something that has not happened. I mean, that has not happened before. Even Rosewood. Everybody remembers that popular movie Rosewood. In 1923,
right here in Florida.
Yeah. In 1923, a race riot destroyed the primarily black town of Rosewood, Florida. In 1994, the state of Florida agreed to a reparations package. So that was what? 61 years later. They agreed to a reparations package worth around $3.36 million in 2014 dollars, of which $2.4 million today would be set aside to compensate the 11 or so remaining survivors of the incident. $800,000 to compensate those who were forced to flee the town, and $160,000 would go to college scholarships primarily aimed at the descendants of those people. So those are examples of reparations. Now, I want to give the chat some information to I want to see what y'all think. I'm going to give y'all about 5 minutes while we do an open-ended question. What would reparations look like for you? So the question is, put it in the chat and we'll read some of the better ones. How much in reparations do you think the United States owes the descendants of enslaved Africans? So you can, I want, and be somewhat, I won't say critical, be somewhat specific. If it's a mixture of land, if it's free college, if it's erased debt, I want to hear some of your ideas on how much in reparations, this is the exact question, how much in reparations do you think the United States owes the descendants of descendants of enslaved Africans? Kathy Hotchell in New York, you can look this up yourself. I don't like to tell people a lot of things that they can search on themselves. I'll lead you there and you can find it. The governor of New York, Kathy Hotchell, she actually signed into legislation today something in regards to reparations and approving at least the beginnings of the conversation. I know in Los Angeles, they've been toying around giving the descendants of enslaved Africans around $180,000. And other places are having the conversations. The National Legal and Policy Center placed reparations right now as of 2023 at $15 trillion, which would involve paying $500,000 to every enslaved descendant. Time magazine columnist Jack White estimated that Black people are owed $24 trillion, which amounts to unpaid wages denied to 10 million slaves, doubled it for pain and suffering with interest. So he's not playing any games whatsoever. And Dr. Dennis G. Rancourt, who, when I do look into reparations, whenever they quote sorts of site sources, I see his name a lot, Dennis Rancourt. Dr. Dennis Rancourt determined the minimum amount of reparations is $59.2 trillion. He calculated 3.7 trillion or 2 million slaves working at a rate of $7.25 an hour, applying a 2% interest rate compounding annually. So, while y'all answer that question in the chat of how much, or if you answer it, it doesn't matter. My question to you, Juju, is Why do you think they haven't given it to us?
You know why? Because we're
No,
not
go ahead, speak freely.
important. We're not important. We're not important enough. They don't see any value in us still. They just, I feel like, yes, they will benefit off of us, but the idealism in their minds is no different than from slavery. Like you're no more good than what you can do for me or how you can benefit me. That's what I think.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to finish with a few quotes and then also some solutions. I'll put the link in the chat.
Before
If you
you
want to, go
before
ahead.
you give the quote, though, I want to welcome to the stage Pseudo Killa official. I'm not going to even say it. Say it for me, Brass.
I can't see
Marcus.
it.
It's Marcus. What's the
Oh,
last name?
Marcus Chilawambe in
Chilawambe.
the building. Marcus Chilawambe.
Every time I say your name wrong, Marcus, I need you to correct me in public. Thank you very much. But
what's up, everybody? Brass, wonderful show. Very informative. Definitely enjoying it. I did my English 102 paper on this subject. This is right at the turn in what was it, 2012, where Wells Fargo had settled a lawsuit for racial discrimination inside the tri-state areas, Philly and Wilmington and South Jersey area, which was interesting in and of itself. One of the things I noticed was, to some degree, it's actually cheaper to be caught discriminating and taking advantage of people than it is to not do it. Right? The laws aren't really strong enough to make it more plausible not to do. That's why we have to always be ever mindful of who we elect in office, where their pockets lie, and the type of laws that you want passed that will ultimately benefit you in the long run, right? So one example was when I looked into an incident that happened in Ohio. They were fined. It was a local bank in Ohio. About $780,000 from the Justice Department, but they had made off with over $11 million. So, in comparison, there's no comparison. You would, as a business person or even as an institution such as a bank, it's better to pay the $700,000 than to give up the $11 million. So, but you're doing an excellent job. I just wanted to put that in there. I'm here with you.
No, I appreciate that. Now I'm gonna pose the question to you. Two questions. What would reparations look like for you if you were to get it? And after that, I'm gonna go back a little bit into the banks because there were some success stories I think I left out. And Sunchild, hit the link. Actually, I don't mind you today because it's early. It's a short show, and I'll be able to get you out the way as soon as possible. If you want to ask any questions, I see you asking questions in the chat. But Marcus, what would reparations look like to you if there were to be reparations? And then second, two-part question, why do you think we haven't gotten reparations yet?
So I had puzzled over this in about 11 years ago. No, about 9 years ago, I had put up 10 points. So I think I still got it on Facebook. Analysis of reparations and what that would look like. I personally would like to see the same laws that were used to discriminate against set aside specifically for those who were discriminated against. So one of such law was the what was that law? The Homestead Act, which allowed migrants to come to America and to get land for pennies on a dollar as long as they developed it and allowed them to have full rights to the land after a short period of time. So to me, those laws in which I think in California, Dr. Claude Anderson says only 3 applicants from blacks was granted, or something along the lines. You can look it up in his book Powernomics.
That's a book I've read 1,000 times.
Yeah, he makes mention of it. So I look at things like that. Those same laws that was instituted against would be then repealed and then used to help benefit specifically them. So I'm not talking about a general reparations bill for everyone who's discriminated against, but specifically for those who are the descendants of those enslaved on the shores of America. So that's how I look at it. I look at it not as a one-time thing, but more as a progression over a period of time. So we wouldn't I'm not with the lump sum. I think you have to have strong institutions already established for something like that to ensure that the distribution is done correctly and that those who need it benefit the most from it. Why we haven't done it is because it is not just a numbers game. It's a propaganda game. And I have to be honest, we look at propaganda sometimes as always negative because it's usually used against us. But I've watched other communities maximize the propaganda game to benefit them.
Facts, Marcus.
And so
you cooking right now, Marcus.
Talk about it.
You talking.
So we have to readjust how we view our language, right? And so we have to do better with that. And I think that's one of the main things. So it's not going to just be a politics thing. It's got to be a cultural change. And the best way to change people's perceptions is through propaganda. So we just need to message out better, clear, and then move in such a way to where we can not make demands, but where people feel as though they're compelled to do it. Right? Because there's something about human nature. When you tell them to do something, they act like they're going to, but they rebel against it immediately. And so that's needed. Then education is needed, right? Because a lot of people don't know the story.
Right.
You read The Color of Money, which Dr. Mayotte Book Club did that book.
And that's where a lot of the quotes that I read earlier, that's where I pulled the quotes from.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then you got another one called The Color of Law.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And so, the information is out there. And I've heard people make statements that are erroneous. I'm troubled that you would, talk about such things and not do the due diligence and research. But nevertheless, and then get the message.
You got a gripe, Marcus. No, go ahead.
Get the message out correctly, and then tell accurate history. You can't just make stuff up. If you're trying to attain a goal, I've said this numerous times. Martin Delaney in his book makes it clear. You have to always rehatch and reform your plan. It's not a, we can't use the same methods we used in the 60s to get our message out in 2023. Dr. King didn't have the internet when he was doing his marches and protests, so he needed a network of newspapers, international newspaper, national newspaper, to bring about the subject, what was needed during the civil rights movement. So we got to definitely incorporate technology, social media, AI technology. We talking about that now, and all these things got to be implemented to just spread the message and educate people on the path. Because a lot of people who buck against reparations make statements in which are historically inaccurate. And so that's another thing. But anyway, like I said, I did a whole thing on the banking and on the laws and regulations that are not to me, they're just not strong enough with penalties to discourage this type thing. And then another thing that's concerning is some of these bills we passing is you got to watch Congress sometimes, because sometimes they like to slide little things
all the time.
In order to get them passed, that's how politics works. In order to pass the big law, you got to slide in a bunch of random laws that tear you down in a bunch of other areas.
Right. And
That's
so
how
you
things
see,
get done.
yeah, and you see a lot of deregulation in some areas when
Yep.
it comes to reporting on demographics. So you got to keep your eye on that too. But nevertheless, Brash, look, you did a wonderful job. I'm not here to take over your show. I'm just
No. You know how happy I am to have an official pseudo killer in the building to assist me on the journey. Because a lot of times with conversations like this, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm making people aware of things that they're already aware of. I'm just kind of reinforcing the information, and I would be remiss to present a whole bunch of problems and challenges without telling you what to do if you feel like you've been discriminated on, or if you feel like maybe a bank has done you wrong. In my estimation, the things that I've seen that work the best are go to your state attorney general's office. That's who literally every state has a division in banking in your state office, so you can go to them. But I found for prompted things, I've had issues with properties, issues with a few contracts that were broken, issues with a few payments and different things like that. I am cool with the state attorney general out here. If you want to find out about the eligibility for assistance from a legal services program, if you don't have a lawyer, contact your local legal aid. Part of getting in the game is you're gonna get taken. It is what it is. Sometimes part of a deal sometimes is that it goes bad. Just because you don't have a lawyer on retainer like you should, but most times most people don't have lawyers on retainers if they're in the finance industry, or they just have an issue at a bank. Most people don't walk around with that. So get legal aid. There are areas. There's renters down at your local city hall you can contact if you feel like your landlord is not taking care of you. If the bank that you're working with, if you feel like it's unfair practices, you can contact the state attorney general. Contact the state division of banking and finance. I really don't like a lot of these shows that I see. They present a lot of I don't like to say this word, but maybe you do, problems. I always replace problems with challenges. But a lot of times when you're faced with the challenges, yes, I present redlining, and yes, I present unfair appraisals, but I'm also going to present you to solutions. So you're not just sitting there listening to me on YouTube saying, well, Brad said that's what they did, so yeah, that's what they did.
Or it sounds like you're complaining.
Exactly. The next step after all of that is to stand up, turn off YouTube, and call your local the state attorney general. And in some places, honestly, call the police. If you're in a bank, I mean, I've actually had one of those Instagram memes or Instagram reels play out in real life, where a person came in to cash their check. I guess either the person didn't look like they should have that much money, or however it plays out, and they called the police. They didn't cash it, and I sat there. I wish I had some popcorn. I sat there and watched the whole thing. And he
not
didn't get
funny,
arrested.
but yeah.
No, it was mainly because it was a brother, to be quite honest. And I sat there to make sure, and they asked him a question. I told him, I said, he didn't do anything. He tried to cash his check. He didn't get belligerent or anything like that. And I couldn't stay for the entire thing, but I do have a lawyer on retainer. I did give the guy some information.
Right.
I don't know how it played out. I couldn't stay, obviously, but that kind of stuff happens. You go to the bank and try to pull out too much money. You've seen it happen with there's been some artists that go to try to take money out of banks. I remember a while ago, what was the guy, the director for
the director, yes,
for Black Panther, Ryan
exactly.
Coogler. Right. He just got
to make a withdrawal, and they denied him.
Yeah, they denied him and then called the police on top of that. They did. So you have, for every time people complain about people having the police called on them, that number works on your phone too. Exactly. You are a civilian. All this not wanting to be involved with the police and all that kind of stuff.
Nah, call the police on them.
Yes. You want to know why?
To you in a heartbeat.
Yep, those same taxes that you complain about are the same taxes that paid their particular salary. You can put them to work also.
Yeah, make their lives, miserable, and make it inconvenient for them just as much as they do for us. That's what I mean. But I have a couple of interjections, and I'll let you get back to it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm done. I just want to talk about a solution, and then I'm done. We can have a free conversation after this.
So first and foremost, I'm going to ask the same question you asked me, Brass, to Marcus. Are you a Pan-African, Marcus?
He might
he don't.
Might be there.
Not,
you know he doing that.
Now he want to conveniently be not there. Marcus.
You might be doing that breathing treatment.
Yeah. So, but also.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Are you a Pan-African, Marcus?
What'd you say?
Oh man, you okay?
I told you.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Are you a Pan-Africanist?
Yeah, I'm a Pan-Africanist.
I just wanted people to know that I got some support. You feel me? Me and Marcus stand strong together. You feel me? That's all. But also to the stage we have, and I'm gonna be funny and I'm being petty, but we have Sunchild. Say hello, Sunchild, and nothing else. Just say hello.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, thank you. And we have American Dream. American Dream, can you just please say hello and nothing else? Just say hello right now.
Hi, how are you?
No.
He sounds like the American Dream, literally.
No.
What's good, Juju? Peace to you.
Listen, I'm like, oh man, maybe they was right. So y'all know that I'm being petty, right? Because
I know
everybody's been saying that.
Yep, I already know. Go ahead.
And Sunchild are the same person, and I just kind of want to, I don't even know no more. Continue with the show, but Sunchild and American Dream will let you have your say in just a moment. I just want Brass to dock his yacht, and then we'll get into the free conversation for a few minutes. But thank you for joining the panel. Go ahead, Brass.
And my last thing that I always like to do, Sister Safa, if you rewind a little bit, we did discuss 4 examples of the United States giving out reparations. Just check those out when you get a chance. So now, like I said, the Attorney General and all of those things, that's one piece. What I would tell anybody also, my solution, and I'm not going to say I haven't been a victim of banking bias. I probably have been a victim of banking bias and didn't even know it. But there's 2 solutions that are personal to me. You can come up with some of the solutions that you believe, but in my particular case, education and what I mean by education in this case is not like college degrees and all of that. Financial literacy. There are alternative lenders. There's a lot of people give hedge funds. When you're trying to create something, Kickstarter, there's a lot of different ways to get funding. In regards to banking, there's a lot of different ways to bank now. We're in the internet age. I do have a Navy Federal, but there's no branches around me. So, I bank Black also. I have multiple accounts, different things. I have different classes you could take specifically to investments. I remember one of the things that made me not want to do crypto and NFTs is I got educated on crypto and NFTs, and I'm glad I never did it. So education, the financial literacy piece, and for parents to help your children to not stop banking bias or financial bias, but to mitigate some of the effects of it, is financial literacy. Know what you're doing. Know how to save money. Learn about life insurance. Learn about so even Social Security, the things that you get from the government. Learn exactly how all of these things work. And that's one thing. The second thing, and a lot of people don't agree, but I am a Republican proudly. I heard they just banned Trump on the ballot in Colorado, so I'm a little upset about that right now. But we're not going into that. That's my private thing I'm sharing publicly. It's not going to change the whole tenor of the show. But entrepreneurship, open a business, create new streams of income. Now, I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just telling you what worked for me. If you have one stream of income, when you lose it, you're probably going to be in trouble.
And let's add to that.
Go ahead.
So what I've read is that most millionaires have at least 7 streams of income. And that's something I've advocated for people, if they want to increase their, social economic position, like, do many things. And lots of people that I know personally who are successful have more than 1 stream of income, as a matter of fact. So
yeah, one of the things that's always helped me, my father taught me this, is you don't have to make a lot of money in one place. You should make the majority of your money at 1 to 2 places and some money in about 6 or 7 others. So I would tell anybody, those things that you see on Instagram and stuff, I'm not telling you to go do those, but consider some of the things that they do. Just don't look at the person that's saying it. You see people talking about be a notary. When you join stuff like that, they're just going to teach you how to sell the notary book. It's like it's ebook businesses, but I would say get online. Start a YouTube business. Start something that you can do from home. That's one of the things that I'm really looking at is a large income from just being home, because COVID, to be quite honest with you, scared the life out of me. Just the fact that we may have to shut it down for a few years or shut it down for a period of time, that you're going to have to look at some sources of income that involve you probably not leaving the house. There are some people where you can work from home. So what I mean by entrepreneurship, though, those are just different forms. You don't have to, everybody looks at entrepreneurship like you have to create some good idea or create some large business. That's not necessarily what it is. Do DoorDash, even something simple, do DoorDash for 2 hours a day. Do something that is within your time frame. I know it's tough as it is, but find something, make something, sew something, do something to bring more income, so that if you do, we live in it, we're going into more of an AI age. So if you think that your job is not going to be replaced, that's why I push entrepreneurship. If you think that the job that you go to, look at the job that you go to every day. And I'm going to tell you a harsh reality. If a computer can do it, prepare yourself, because a computer's probably about to start doing it. Labor costs in entrepreneurship is the largest cost I know for me, and probably the largest cost for most people that have entrepreneurship with employees. It's labor or product, one of the two, or both. So these are just the things that I share with you. I land my plane. This was to be a conversation piece. I understand nobody's perfect. Posterius. I appreciate posterius thought. But nobody's perfect. And I'm not saying it as though I got it all figured out, but I am educated on these things. So when I see things, splash headlines like Navy Federal is being racist or such and such, or banking discrimination, I know a little bit more, and I just wanted to share that with the people. So we have some guy from Mortal Kombat on the panel that's going to make my life difficult for the next 30 minutes, and then American Dream. So either one of you, give me your ideas on the show, and then if you have any questions. I'm going to start with you, Sunchild, because you cammed up. So, yeah, I want to go on a rant too, Joe. But
you're hilarious, Sunchild.
Yeah, I want to go on a rant too, Joe. But in this particular case, I wanted to get the education out to the people, have a conversation so people can get back to it. It's the holidays. I don't want to do a 3-hour show during the holiday season. So go ahead, Sunchild.
Well, I have just a couple of things. The first one is just being petty and a little bit facetious.
I already know where you finna go.
We already know that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard y'all mention racism, and I heard y'all say black people, and I thought in this crowd, race is a social construct. So if race doesn't exist, what is racism? And are we black people again? I thought we weren't using that term.
Stop right there. What does the name under my login say? What would you say my name was if somebody had to ask you?
Who am I speaking with? Is that Brass or?
Yes, sir. Brass.
Right. Okay. Yes.
I don't participate in every conversation. I don't believe that there is a quote unquote conscious community. That's why the shows that I do tend to be a little bit different. If you want to discuss race and social constructs in Black or Egypt or any of that stuff, I'm pretty sure there's 3 shows going on about it right now. I'm just not the person that you would want to have that conversation with, because it's just not something that I'm interested in right now.
That's
Let
fine. Like I said,
let
I
me
was
help you out.
being petty. I was being petty anyway.
Wait. Let me help you out. I put you on mute. So, as far as pseudo killers, which deal with scientific literacy, what we have always stated, and I will state it again, race or the term black cannot be qualified scientifically. Do you understand, Sunchild? And then I will continue to speak. But yes or no, do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay. So when we use black, we are using it as a political statement for the oppression, the degradation, and everything else that our people, our ancestors in particular, have endured over the years since the age of discovery, since the African Mayafa. Do you understand that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So this is in particular right now, we are having somewhat a social conversation. You feel me? So you're going to hear those terms racism and to that point, race can't be qualified scientifically, but it is a social construct. And I urge everyone to go and look up the definition of social construct, because I think we have confused it or we've remixed it. Okay. And as far as racism, that is something that is real and actually takes place because of the application of the social construct of race. Do I make myself clear?
Yes. That's fair enough.
Okay,
Like
what's
I
the
said,
other piece that you wanted? What's the other? I
I
know
was
you were
being
being
petty
petty.
anyway.
I know you started with the petty piece. I understand.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
it's just we talk about, this community talks about black and this and that and all of this, that and the
Yeah,
other.
don't
And
mention
all
the
my,
E word, please,
yeah,
please, please.
I didn't even want to see it. My
Right,
shows,
right.
if I ever do another show, it most likely it'll be along something along the lines of some current events, politics, just a change of pace, because we're about not just scientific literacy, but just getting the actual facts on financial literacy. Also, these are things that people like to discuss. But go ahead, bro.
And lots of other subject matters, but I just had to say that.
that's
Sunchild,
fine. Yeah. The other thing is, I'm glad he came on. American Dream said something in the chat that I found curious. He said that there's no banking. If we're going to see, I think he's trying to say, if we're going to see bias in banking, we would have to see bias in the recruiting of the NBA, since there are 95% of the NBA players are black. And I guess he's trying to say that they only recruit on talent. And what he's saying is that the banking industry apparently is saying they only give out loans and so on based on your credit, or perhaps something that he's saying that there is no bias. It's just a matter of your financial stature that would allow the bank to work with you. And I found that curious, and I was wondering, is that what he's saying? If he could clarify what he's saying, and try to get you guys to see what you think about what he's saying.
Well, before he says that, I just want to say, but banking bias has been around as long as banking. So to say that there's no bias in this country is studies have even shown, even in the case of the Navy Federal bias, there's a clear bias towards not just blacks, low income minorities, redlining. That's an actual thing. These are things that, as much as I am proud, we had another discussion discourse. As much as I am proud to be an American, I also understand, I take the good with the bad also. That's why I participate. I become an entrepreneur. I make sure that I vote. I make sure that I'm an active participant in my community. So, the fact that there's biases, that's not necessarily that we're not discussing if there's biases. Studies show that there are biases, but I didn't get the NBA piece or the connection. So American Dream, I'll let you speak to that. Welcome to the panel. Appreciate you for hitting the link.
Yeah, absolutely. Peace to everyone.
Yes,
Yeah, so the main point I was making, and I was trying to do it with the NBA analogy, is that just because there's an inequity doesn't mean that it's created by bias. Like, is there bias in banking? I'm sure there is, but does an inequity mean that there's a bias? Not necessarily. And I was just pointing that out with the NBA. In the NBA, most of the players are black. There's an inequity there, but we wouldn't necessarily say it's because of bias. We would say it's because they recruit the best players. The same thing with hockey. We wouldn't say it's just biased why they don't hire black players. It's just that there aren't a lot of them. There's not a lot to pick from. So just because there's an inequity doesn't necessarily mean that there's a bias. That's the only point that I was making.
Okay.
Oh wow, that's very interesting.
That's a
I'm gonna
super
call that
interesting.
flag on the play and
Yeah,
I don't even. I appreciate your point, but okay, go ahead, Marcus.
That was real ignorant. I'm not even going to tolerate such foolishness. That was an ignorant statement. There's no. Yeah. That was ignorant. That's
Go
what
ahead.
that was
This
I had
ignorant.
to unmute myself so you could hear me laugh.
This is where this is where it gets fun. So let's go ahead and do the.
It's ignorant.
American Dream never disappoints.
I know. He's entertaining. So let's get it.
Hold on, Marcus. Before you go, Marcus.
Yes, sir.
Can I just ask Sunchild if he was clear with the answer I gave him, since I was trying to respond to his question? I'd rather hear his response first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I understand the answer you gave. You're saying it's not necessarily a bias, but I would say that there are inequities that can be biased, and in this case, I believe that that's the case with banking. Even though some inequities may not be biased, some are. And I think that's the case with banking in America, that there is bias that creates an inequity.
Sure, and I don't disagree with that either. There can be. It doesn't have to be biased, but all I'm saying is an inequity doesn't necessarily mean that there's a bias. And if you want to see bias, you have to really look for it, and you're not just going to see it just by looking at the numbers and just looking at statistics. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So like I said, that was just an ignorant statement. That's historically ignorant and blind to the fact of what actually occurs and what happened. They were very specific and wrote down exactly why they did it and what they were doing. And so for you to say that somehow or another all these people got it misconstrued and that it's not necessarily bias, it's just inequity, is utterly foolishness to me. The fact that you specifically in the 2012 case with Wells Fargo, I was intimately involved because part of the settlement had to do with a community that I was working along with, and we were getting people fresh home loans based on a new program that they put in there. So I'm very familiar with the details of that case. And in that case, it was very clear where they specifically targeted Black and Hispanic people with predatory lending. It wasn't even a question. Like, it's in their documents. They told their employees what to do to these type of people. That's not inequity, American Dream. That's racism and bias. And they didn't deny it. They actually said, okay, we won't do it again, and then got caught later doing it again. So I find it to be quite disgusting, really, to try to justify.
So how is what I said ignorant if you just said it's not inequity, if it has nothing to do with inequity? Why is what I said ignorant?
Because what you did is you took what Brass is talking about out of its historical context and brought up a goddamn sport and saying that, look, there's a lot of Black people in the NBA. That's not bias. That's just plain old inequity, or it may look like inequity. When we're talking about recorded historical events.
So can I ask you a question, Marcus?
I don't really. I mean,
Let me ask you
I
a question,
hear what you're
Marcus.
saying.
Marcus, let me ask you a question. You just said there was a case where some people sued a bank about
The
the
federal
bias.
government did. The federal government
The
did.
federal government, was the federal government, what was their case? Let me just add, be clear what my question is. Did they go in there and show inequity? Was that their case where they said there's inequity, so the bank is guilty? Was that their case?
Racial discrimination. I'm gonna make it plain again. Racial discrimination. They
And listen to my question carefully. In order to prove racial discrimination, is all they showed was inequity? That's all I'm asking you. Did they just show, look, these banks are inequitable, so there's racism? Is that all they did?
This is what happens when people don't listen. I said that Wells Fargo actually told their employees what to do to Black and brown people. That is no longer what you're saying.
So it wasn't just about the inequity.
Oh my Lord. Okay, look, I'm done because
So Marcus, it wasn't just about the inequity, is what you're saying, right, Marcus? So Marcus, it wasn't about the inequity. So I don't understand why you're coming in here saying something totally different from what I'm saying and then calling me ignorant when you're not even responding to what I'm saying.
Because
I'm not going to call you ignorant. I'm just going to say you're not responding to what I said at all.
I am.
No, you're not, bro. You think you are, but you're really not.
Let me jump in there.
Hold on, Brad. Hold on. I'm gonna say this one more time.
Did you share my screen, please?
This is one of the last times I'm gonna say this.
Please, because you're starting to sound just as ignorant as you think I am. So go ahead, say it. Say it a clearer way.
I don't think you are.
Say something I didn't say more clearly. Go ahead.
You are one of those people who come to America and imply that they know all of the historical applications that went on against Black people in America.
Because I said an inequity doesn't mean a bias. You got that from me saying an inequity is not a bias.
No,
you're an asshole. You're an idiot. Sounds like you just don't like me or something, Marcus. Sounds like you.
Language dream. Keep your language there.
Thank you.
Just don't curse. You can say what you want, just don't curse.
So let me say this again. I'm going to explain this one time. The Wells Fargo 2012 case that affected people in Philadelphia, Wilmington, Delaware, South Jersey. Their practice was to alienate Black and brown people with predatory lending. It is not a question of did they do it. It's not a question of was it racism. It is very well known. To even imply.
Why do you think I'm questioning that, Marcus? Marcus, why do you think I'm questioning it?
To even imply.
Wait a minute.
Why do you think I'm questioning it?
Wait, Marcus. I'm going to say this one time, American Dream. We don't mind the discourse. What we're not going to do is disrespect and talk over each other. We're going to have a civil conversation, and that's that. You may continue, Marcus. Let him finish his point, American Dream. Then you may continue. And we're going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. So, make it quick.
Tell that man to hurry up. He talked too damn long.
He must not. Look, I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and step off because it's about to get serious.
Share my screen.
Step way off.
Peace out.
1 second.
Enjoy the rest of the show. I appreciate y'all.
You're a dumbass, Marcus. Fuck out of here.
Hold on. All right.
Juju, get him off the show. He got to go. Appreciate it.
I think at that point he was actually trying to get cut off. I mean, I don't mind discourse as long as we're not just screaming at each other. That or cursing and all of that. I'm not interested in that. So let's talk about inequity. Lack of equity, injustice, or fairness. So inequity. So you could say inequality, bias, discrimination, but inequity. So I'm gonna just speak to the word lack of equity, injustice, and unfairness. So I'm gonna give examples of inequity. I'm not gonna argue or anything like that. Am I still sharing my screen?
No.
Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna just give examples. Just give examples. So these are some examples. Bank will pay $31 million after discriminating against Black and Latino communities. The United States Department of Justice has reached a $31 million settlement with City National Bank in a historic housing discrimination case. City National, based in Los Angeles, is one of America's 50 biggest banks. The settlement is the largest ever in a redlining case. The Justice Department has since secured $75 million. They go on to talk about legislation, but here's what actually happened. Between 2017 and 2022, City National discriminated against Black and Latino residents by underwriting fewer mortgages, unfair, and marketing less frequently in their communities, the Department of Justice found. Over 2 decades, the bank opened just one new branch in a predominantly Black or Latino neighborhood. As a result, other financial institutions received 6 times more mortgage applicants than did City National during the same time frame. I would say that is unfair. Well,
yeah, I think.
Don't cut me off, Sunchild. Let me finish, and then because we're about to close, I'm gonna let you speak before we get off. Fired Wells Fargo director. This is someone who worked for Wells Fargo. Claims racial bias in the finance group. I don't have access to this Bloomberg, but you can look that up. I'll drop that source in the chat if you want to pay for Bloomberg. I have no interest. There was one more. Okay. There was a study done. Racial bias runs deep at America's largest banks, study says. The banking industry has a race problem, and a new study is putting a spotlight on the inequalities within the nation's largest financial institutions. For people of color, the chances of getting promoted to the highest levels of management or senior and executive leadership at some of the nation's most powerful consumer banks are much lower compared with their white peers, according to the report which was conducted for the Committee for Better Banks obtained by CNN Business. They say that's true for much of corporate America. Such and such. I'll put the source in the chat. So, to say that there's no inequity, one of the major parts of the discussion when I brought up Navy Federal was, and I repeat, they compared a Black couple looking for a home or a loan or a car or anything that they were looking for in regards to Navy Federal. You had to make $140,000 compared to a white couple looking for the same thing at $62,000. If that is not unfair, if that is not inequality, if that is not bias, if that is not inequitable, then I would like to see a show where somehow on some planet that is fair. Sunchild, I'll let you say your piece, and then we're going to close the show. Unless God
Yeah,
Killa has anything to say.
Yeah, I just think the brother American Dream is using the word inequity improperly. I don't see inequity in choosing NBA players. There's no injustice there. It's just the most talented people are selected. There's no inequity. I think he needs a better word for what's happening in the NBA than inequity. I think he's trying to separate inequity from unfairness or injustice, and I think that's where he might have a problem there. But I understand what he is saying, that there are times where if you have 5 whites, 5 blacks, and you say eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and you get all 5 whites, there's no injustice there. It's just luck of the draw. I think there might be a better word for it.
Hold on. One thing I will not acquiesce to is a faulty premise. Nowhere in lending, nowhere in mortgage approval, nowhere in a car loan approval do banks say eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
No, I wasn't saying that.
I don't understand that's like, if it was that, then yeah, if we were just throwing dice against the wall and saying that this, no, you fill out an application for a reason. You build your credit. Listen, as Black people, we build our credit for a reason. We get jobs. We establish loans. We do the same thing that everyone else does for a reason. Some of us buy property. I buy property for investments. Other people buy properties to live in. Some people buy properties to flip. But we do the same thing. If I have to make, it's a simple question, Sunchild. If I have to make $140,000 to compare to a white applicant making $60,000, is that fair?
No.
Okay, so it's then inequity is unfair. So I'm using the word in the purest form of the definition, but I also am the same person, Sunchild, that I don't believe life is fair. I'm not looking for life to be fair. Fair is a place where they judge pigs and sell food that is highly calorically dense.
Funnel cakes and them
funnel cakes and all that kind of stuff.
with the peppers
Yeah,
and
I don't
onions.
care about that. And that good guy, if you want to hit the link, I don't know if you want to hit the link, hit it. But
no, he tried to hit the link, but he doesn't have a good connection and won't allow me to add him. So we're not being biased here. I'm just gonna say.
So hold on, Sunchild. So I'm gonna land just say something, and then I'm gonna land my plane because we've been here 14 minutes longer than I wanted to be. It's the holiday season. I don't want to be inequitable with people spending time with their kids and family. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could help me out, what's a better word? For example, the NBA has 95% black players, so we can see that there aren't many different races represented. So what's a better word for that phenomenon other than an inequity, since inequity is something unjust, but there's no injustice there. It's just based on talent. What's a better word that perhaps American Dream we can use for that phenomenon of the NBA?
I don't know. I haven't studied the NBA. The show's not about the NBA. If I looked into it, I could probably figure out just off the cuff.
That was a false equivalency. So let's drop that.
I don't. The comparison of the two
fallacy.
doesn't make sense. Yeah, the comparison of the two. I think the problem is in the comparison of the two. So that's where you would fall for it. I'm not going to tell American Dream what to think. He's a grown human being, full grown, so he can figure out that on his own. I don't even want to speak to it because I'm not familiar with the subject. I watch, but I know that there's not a fair amount of coaches compared to the amount of players. I mean, if you want to have that discussion, but as far as why there's more people playing black people in the NBA, I don't know. I really don't care. It's entertaining, I'll tell you that. But we're gonna land the plane there. We're gonna land the plane.
Thanks for having me on.
Huh?
Thanks for having me on, and peace.
Oh, I appreciate it. We're gonna land the plane there.
Thank
like
you,
I said,
child.
In closing, I just wanted to share just my thoughts on the subject. A lot of times with social media, believe it or not, I'm not the biggest fan of social media. Joel, I'm sorry, Joe's here. I'll give you a chance to speak. Go ahead, Joe.
Not yet. Give me a second.
Okay.
Well, you better hurry up.
Yeah, you better hurry up. We closing up shop. I'm not the biggest fan or affair of social media because social media just gives you splash headlines with nothing behind it. So I think it is a bit unfair to just splash. That's why I didn't just try to kill Navy Federal in the headlines. I didn't want to put them in the title. I don't like to retract stuff, and I put their actual response to what it is, but it inspired me to do it because redlining is real. Now, do we have good examples? The Freedmen's Bank, Black Wall Street. I mean, we've tried, but look at those cases on your own and see how that played out. You know, we have cases where we have tried to do it. I remember there's a great book about A.G. Gaston, I want to say, about the life insurance industry in Alabama. That's a good financial piece. Powernomics by Claude Anderson. That's a good piece to read. So there are good examples of finance, but this is not about Navy Federal. Navy Federal is just a piece of the industry that is systemically biased, systemically racist, systemically unequal towards black people in regards to finance. So as I say, I'm going to finish with the solutions. My solutions for me have been education, so financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And in other cases, if you feel you've been discriminated against, call your state attorney general, call the police. There's a division of banking and finance in every state. You know, talk to them. If you feel like it, you have representation, get a lawyer. So I'm not telling you what to do. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor, But I just wanted to share my
We're
thoughts.
not financial
We are not
advisors.
financial advisors, so don't go out there and do anything based on what I'm saying. I'm just telling you from my point of view. If you want to share your point of view, create a channel, do a show, do a podcast, get out into the area. But for me, entrepreneurship and education has helped mitigate some of the effects of bias. Joe, you ready? Because we're about to close up.
Hold up,
Yeah,
Joe.
Let me. Hey, what's going on, fam? How y'all doing?
What's going on, Joe?
What's
Y'all might not be able to see me. I got too much
Hear
vitamin on
nothing.
me.
And you can't hear either.
I knew it. Somebody else was gonna do it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Juju. Moderate.
Joe, you finna get kicked off. We're not mentioning none of that here.
All right, my bad. I was just messing around. No,
Yeah.
I wanted to weigh in on that reparations thing. Look here.
Go ahead.
We all of us know that one of the best ways to build family wealth is through owning property. That's been proven across the board. And that's one of the things. That's one of the things they did to us. They locked us out of participating in this home ownership. So whatever reparations look like, it should give us enough income to be able to go buy homes, and to have enough income to get education or to send our children into higher education. That is a must. It's also a must that they freaking give us some protected status. People just killing us and thinking that's all willy-nilly. That kind of stuff need to end. And there need to be some mandatory. Remember how I used to give people mandatory minimums for having some freaking crack cocaine? You need mandatory minimums for shooting me when I'm unarmed. All those things should be a must and should be a part of reparations. I just wanted to do that. Brass, I know you don't want to get too crazy, so I ain't going to get into nothing else until after the holidays.
I know you.
But we'll do it again. We'll do it again after the holidays. Hey, this is a great show. Peace, fam.
Yeah, Joel can't hear none, but I know Joe ready to shoot.
Peace, brother. I appreciate it.
Joel done
go ahead, Juju. Take us out if you want to.
Joel done caught a couple bodies, so he ready to game bang.
Yes, all day long. I can tell. That's why I saved the reparations piece for last.
Right.
Because reparations is its own series of shows, and that's that we could do that on another time. But go ahead, Juju. Take us out. Unless Marcus, you got something.
Mark is going to say something, but what I wanted to add as far as the state attorney general or whatnot, for those of you who live in Florida, they're located in Tallahassee. I actually have the address because I get a newsletter from them because I actually had to put in a complaint. But it was another office also that you can put in a complaint for businesses, so you can start there also. Maybe I can pull it up, but I don't want to give you the wrong information, but it's the state attorneys and it's one more, I think, business affairs and the capital that they deal with businesses. They give the ratings for, they have something to do with the Better Business Bureau or whatnot, but they do take claims of unjust business practices or whatnot, because I had to report a business. I lost $800. That may not be much to y'all, but for me at the time, it was a lot, and I just wasn't going to let them, get away with it easily. I basically paid for something, never got the product, but because of the contract said no refunds, they decided the business I was dealing with decided they just wasn't going to give me the product. And I didn't have anything. I didn't have any standing on it because the money was considered a deposit, but neither here nor there. All you have to do, and if you also having issues, contact like your state representative, on your local representatives, like get them involved. Once you start getting, other entities involved, businesses tend to, and banks are businesses, they tend to act accordingly. So just don't, suffer in silence, so to speak. Like, let people know that you've been wrong. And I think that's a problem with Black people. And I'll speak anecdotally. I won't speak for anybody else. But a lot of times we'll go through things and we won't say anything. And I'm not talking about abuse or nothing like that. I'm just talking about in life, like, being unjustly pinpointed or whatnot. Like, we'll just let it go. We won't say nothing. And we got to stop doing that. Like, we've been wronged by a business or any other type organization, like, let it be known, speak up, and let other people know so it won't continue to happen. Because a lot of times people do these things because they get away with it, right? They're not held accountable. So yeah, I just wanted to say that a little bit. Marcus?
Yeah, I just wanted to give y'all a source about that Wells Fargo 2012 case. If y'all remember when I first got on the show, I talked about how ignorant people just make statements and say stuff without any historical context. We just found a prime example right here. To even suggest the NBA recruiting processes, which there are issues with it, and we can talk about that later, is anywhere equivalent to what Brass was bringing today, is disrespectful. It's ignorant and unnecessary. And if he wanted to troll somewhere, there's plenty of shows where trolls can go.
Oh, Lord.
That's not what I'm here for. And so I'm going to remind American Dream once again, there are plenty of things to entertain yourself with. I'm not one of them. So if you look on my screen, this is the Office of Public Affairs, United States Department of Justice. Like I said, it was a federal lawsuit. And they'll go through and tell you all that happened and what's going on. This is the press release in 2012. Remember, I gave you the year that it happened. And it'll tell you exactly what they did, how they were doing it, and how it was actually Wells Fargo policy for Black and brown borrowers to be streamlined into predatory loans. And I'm going to put it in the chat so all y'all can enjoy and read it for yourselves. Try to stay well informed on these issues. Don't let any bobo come up here and just say anything and teach you anything. Make sure they got sources. Okay? That's all I wanted to say.
Anything else, Brass, before I put on the music?
No, I appreciate you for chauffeuring me around. I appreciate the opportunity to even have the ability to take my thoughts from myself and put it out to the world. I appreciate Pseudo Killas. Thank y'all for the opportunity.
Okay, let me you and yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for supporting the show today. I appreciate everybody who came to join. I'll give a quick little shout out before I play that, the end music. But Tyson, peace. Thank you for coming. Gideon Block, Omari, part of Pseudo Killa Army, Valicia, Lady Killa in full effect. We got Zoo. You already know what it is, fam. I got Nubian Bahamut, aka Chefrin, in the building. And in spite of, I appreciate American Dream and Sunchild hitting the piano and becoming actively engaged, just minus the ignorance. But we got a couple more people. Just give me a second. I'll let it go. Sister Safa, thank you. Some excellent points were made in the chat. I loved everyone's idea on what reparations should be, by the way. And I absolutely concur. That good guy, just check your connection. But I really wanted you on the panel. You made some great points. Michael Kelly, thank you for joining us today. And with that said, oh goodness, Indigenous Black man, because I know you will hold it against me later. But yes, we thank you all for supporting these shows that are actually giving us some food to eat and that we can digest and utilize these tools in our real lives, minus all the rah-rah and the same circular arguments. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, good night, and we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow night also with some more great programming from Pseudo Killas.
Yeah, it's DQ, baby. Pseudo Killas, what up? What up? Check. Tapping in, what's the subject? Evolution or revolution, we ain't done yet. Laying flat like Sanchez, this a bomb threat. I know my flow like Angozi. Source up and show me, homie. You shut up and mute up a moment. The mass mad scientists. I'm knowing all the components. We own it, and we gon' off it if it's pseudo. You do know we don't entertain that keyboard judo. That big Bobby banger out of Baltimore. Done it all, shop before. Sold a little something, but I taught you more than your average teacher. I had to reach you at your level to bring you up. No devil can never beat you. With precision of a magi, the information supplied by some guys get debunked on live. CK and Juju, I chill in the cut. But if you boys wanna fade, then I'm chefing you up. I organize lie, defeats a disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, back again. An organized lie, defeats a disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, tapping in. I always been fly, that's an actual omen. You can catch me in the sky, ask Anthony Bowman. He see me with his telescope, I was actually floating off some good kush that Savio is actually growing. See, Gullah Gullah and Kent is where the money gets spent. Them boys got some books that cost as much as you rent. The second verse should be smash Rockwell, but I rock well. Underground like Sumerian Rockwells. In the ring like I'm the rock whale. Hell, create a different wave that can rock whales. Hell, shit swell like lunar tides. My entendres off Gandra to who describe. Euthanize foolish guys. Scholastically, haphazardly. Turn your camera on and look me in my eyes. And please do subscribe. 8 to 80, blind, cripple, or crazy. You in for a new surprise. It's DQ, a organized lie. Defeats a disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, back again. An organized lie. Defeats a disorganized truth every time. Kudos, who those niggas? Decorated pseudo killers. Space age Africans, tapping in.